have the distinct pleasure today of having a guest speaker with us, and it's one that you guys are no doubt very familiar with because it's like he got to live with us for a month here a while back. Would you join me in welcoming Todd Marshall from Worship is Life Ministries? It's great to have you back.
A lot has happened in the last 2 years in all of our lives. And I just want to share with you a couple highlights, some good news that's happened in our lives. So this is our 9-month-old grandson, our first grandchild. That is Zane. Zane with a Y, thank you very much. And he just lights up our life like you wouldn't believe. He is just a tremendous blessing, this new life in our lives. And also I want to share with you, about 16 months ago, I came in contact with this couple. They pastor in Pakistan. They are native Pakistanis. And in the last 16 months, I have been speaking in their congregations and in their villages that they go out around their whole area, sharing on my Worship is Life teachings. It's just been a tremendous, unique opportunity. The whole western border of Pakistan borders Afghanistan, and we all know what is happening there right now. So this has everybody's attention around the world, including these people in Pakistan. Pakistan's over 96% Muslim, less than 2% Christian. They are the poorest of the poor, and we've just been blessed with this opportunity to go in and minister to them. This is the first time I was speaking in their congregation. And that's Pastor Mahmood, who is the lead pastor of the Word of Life Ministries there. And he does all my interpreting for me. We've been able to raise some money to help them buy these chairs for this sanctuary and that screen on the back wall. So when I get piped into this particular space, they can actually see my face. Every month, I teach about 50 of their young adults in Bible teaching and Bible training. They're just hungry. And matter of fact, tomorrow morning, I will be teaching them early in the morning. And then 3 months ago, my son Taylor and I were there in person for a week. By the way, I want to thank you because Maranatha helped fund this trip. So thank you so much for that. We call this the golden hour picture. So we're standing on the rooftop of that sanctuary you were just looking at. We are dressed in our custom-made Pakistani outfits. That was a gift from our host. And unbeknownst to me, in my phone was an email waiting for me. This was the night before what was supposed to be our last day, our only free day in Pakistan. When I went downstairs, opened up my phone, just happened to check my email, just happened to actually have enough signal for my email to come through, which that week wasn't always the case. And in there was a series of emails saying, basically, you have 6 hours to catch the last flight of your airline to get out of the country before it shuts down for 3 weeks. And so we were a 3-hour drive from the airport. We weren't supposed to get our COVID results for another 24 hours. So we went through 5.5 hours of probably the most intense time of our lives. And you can go to our podcast and hear the story and also hear about the rest of our time there. But just an amazing trip. We actually, about a year ago, we helped fund them opening a grocery store. So that couple that I first showed you, they run this grocery store in their neighborhood. It's the only grocery store in the Christian neighborhood of that town. And that is supplying basically their income for their livelihood. And then any little funds that come in their services, they're able to help the poor people of their church and of their town and of their villages. Ladies, I don't know, if you look to the right there, you'll notice that the grocery store has now turned into half makeup store. And by the way, the makeup side of the store is doing better than the grocery side of the store. And another cool thing to know is that half of their clientele is Muslim. So that is a really cool thing. And so, wow, one click and went through 4 pictures there. Okay. So we just had a great time going out in the villages, doing services in their sanctuaries. And almost every time that we had children in the services, they had food prepared, and we were able to feed these wonderful kids there. Taylor got to do his music in almost every service here. We're in one of the villages presenting our children's worship book to the children's leader in that village. And just an amazing, amazing time. Now, I show you all that to show you these next few pictures. Here we are standing on a piece of property that is on the line between two villages, village number 55, of which you saw some photos, and village number 56. A Muslim landowner had been holding this piece of property for them to build a building that would house an orphanage and function as a Christian school. The number one thing that is keeping these Christians in their cycle of poverty is lack of education. And the number one thing that is keeping them from really maximizing them growing God's kingdom is lack of Bible teaching and training. So this summer, we raised $30,000 to help them buy that piece of property, and the closing is tomorrow. So super, super excited about that. And I've got a couple of pictures here of what the inside is going to look like and what the outside is going to look like. And so in a couple months, we'll be launching off and helping them raise funds. They've already raised themselves $10,000 for this building. And so we're super excited to get started on that project. So these are a couple of things that have been happening in our lives. And thank you for helping us and being a part of that. So I want to just do a recap of our Worship is Life message as an introduction to the message I'm going to bring to you today. So I'm traveling the world answering these two questions. What is the connection between a worship service like we are having right now and a life of worship? And the second question is, why does it matter? So there's three insights that I share to answer these two questions. First of all, worship equals relationship. Let's all say that together. Worship equals relationship. So the Bible is not a book of rules. The Bible is a story of relationship. And more specifically, how to do relationship with God and how to do relationship with others. And I would submit to you that relationship is the purpose of life, which is why we turn to the Bible, as Pastor Mike was sharing, to see how to live life, because the Bible shows us how to do relationship with God and how to do relationship with others. And when we are engaging in this way, in a healthy way, God calls this worship. So a very significant question then is, how does God do relationship? And that brings us to the second insight. God does relationship in a pattern. And this pattern is he reveals himself to us, invites us to respond to him, and when we respond to him, then he responds to us. And this is the connection between a worship service and a life of worship. Exactly how God does relationship when we gather together, showing himself to us through the songs that we sing, through the scriptures that we read, through the seeing God in each other as he's made us in his image, then we respond to him, and then we sense him responding to us. So this relational dynamic that's happening right now as I'm speaking to you, the same relational dynamic, I am revealing truths and insights from God. You are invited to respond, and as you respond, as you're processing right now these words, as you're responding, God is responding to you. That is the same relational dynamic in which he invites us to live our lives. And as we do, we are worshiping our God, our Creator, our Redeemer, our Helper. This is how he does relationship. I don't know if some of you may remember when I was here 2 years ago, I shared my favorite earthly analogy of revelation and response, the analogy of driving. Every moment we are, how many remember that? Is everybody ringing a bell to anybody? Oh, if someone better raise their hand, or I'm going to say the whole thing. I'll just give you a little example. We see the light turn red and we do what? We see the light turn green and we do what? We see the light turn yellow and we do what? Okay, not as much agreement on that one. But you get the point. Every moment you're driving, what is being revealed to you second by second, you are responding to. And the laws of driving are there to help us to relate to the law and to everybody else around us, which is exactly what God calls us to. He calls us to relate to Him and His rules for living, which are there to help us relate to everybody else around us. And so our role in our relationship with God is to live in a way where we are always looking for Him, always listening for Him, and always responding to Him. And as we do, God calls this worship. So that brings us to the third insight, which is we worship God best when we love others. Let's all say that together. We worship God best when we love others. I love the vibe that is in your foyer out there as you are coming in. I love the vibe that you have here as you're greeting each other during the service. Have you ever had the thought that during those times that that's your best worship? Because worship equals relationship. And we worship God best when we love others. The two greatest commands, love God with your whole being, love your neighbor as yourself, they function as one. Jesus Himself says the second command is like the first. The second command is the same as the first, because you can't love God without loving people, and you can't love people unconditionally for the long haul without the help of God. So we worship God best when we love others. And that brings us to this statement that I shared with you last year. Unless what happens when we gather translates into what happens when we scatter, then what happens when we gather doesn't matter. The connection between what's happening here and what's happening when we walk out these doors is the relational pattern in which God does relationship with us. As we stay engaged with Him, He helps us love our families, love our friends, love those we go to school with, love those we work with, love the stranger that we meet on the street. This is how God does relationship. When we engage, God calls this worship. So today, I want to bring to you a teaching on what lies at the heart of relationship, the foundation of relationship. And we're going to call that dynamic. That was kind of a giveaway. We're going to call that dynamic identity. Everyone say that. Identity. If you were to look up the word identity in the dictionary, you would find this: the fact of being who a person is. I have a driver's license. On that driver's license is my picture. On the driver's license is my name. It says Todd J. Marshall. Not J-A-Y, just the letter J. That's all I have. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Todd J. Marshall. My driver's license is government proof that this is who I am. This is my identity. I even have a driver's license number that is connected to only me. This is my identity. I have a passport. My passport has a picture. My passport has my name, Todd J. Marshall. My passport has a number. This passport is proof anywhere in the world that I am Todd J. Marshall, my identity. I want to talk to you about the definition of identity that is a deeper layer than that. And that is this: the essence of who a person truly is. The essence of who a person truly is. So there's a lot of movies, a lot of great movies that have to do with identity. Matter of fact, I would submit to you that most of the great movies have to do with identity because it is the essence of who we are that we all identify with. And there's a ton of Disney movies that have to do with identity. You've got The Little Mermaid, identity. You've got Frozen, identity. You've got Aladdin, identity. You've got Lion King, identity. Simba, remember who you are. Identity, identity, identity. But as you've already seen, the Disney movie I'm going to talk to you about is The Incredibles. This movie is full of identity stories. If you don't know, this Disney movie is about a family of superheroes. Bob is Mr. Incredible, and he is going through a midlife crisis. His kids are going through identity issues. His wife is trying to figure out what is going on in her world. There is a point in the movie where Helen, the wife, Elastigirl, has found out where her husband is. She borrows a jet. Her kids, who are finding out their superhero powers, sneak onto the plane. They crash land, make their way to this island. They have their outfits on. They're in a cave. Mom says, kids, you stay here. I'm going to go find Dad. She hands them their masks and makes this statement. This is Disney talking, folks. She says, your identity is your most valued possession. Your identity is your most valued possession. But the character I really want to focus on in this movie is Edna Mode, the famous Edna Mode. So Edna is the one who makes the outfits for all the superheroes. She's made Bob a new outfit. Helen finds out something is going on. She comes to see Edna. Edna is sitting in her swivel chair, and they get talking about Bob. It's not pretty. And Edna poses this question to Helen. She says, do you know where he is? Now, she thinks Bob is just on a business trip. She doesn't realize that he's lost his job and has gotten this new chance to play superhero again. And Helen's like, well, yeah, I know where he is. Do you know where he is? Well, of course I know where he is. And now Edna at this moment has her back to Helen, and she swings around in her swivel chair with this look on her face and says, do you know where he is? And the question I want to pose to you today is, do you know who you are? Do you know who you are, the essence of who you truly are. Right now, the essence of who you truly are is a fact. And that could be a positive fact, or that could be a fact that needs to shift, adjust, change. Do you know who you are? So, in our Christian circles, a very common statement about identity is, our identity is in, right? We've all heard it. We all know it. Many of us have said it. We think it. Our identity is in Christ. You know, I have had seasoned Christians sit across the table from me and say, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? Do you know if you go looking for the word identity in the Bible, you will not find it. The word identity is nowhere in the Bible because the Bible is not a dictionary. The Bible is not a rule book. The Bible is a story of relationship. So you have to go looking. You have to go looking for what identity is in the Scriptures. I'm going to try to help us discover this. Sometimes when you're looking for how to engage in something, the easiest way is to recognize when you're not engaging correctly. So I'm going to give you some words to help us kind of get our mind around identity, because it's mysterious. Relationship with God is mysterious. It's not exactly the same as having a relationship with a person. It's similar, very similar, but not exactly the same. It's mysterious. And so our identity, which is at the core of our relationship, and especially relationship with God, it's mysterious. Sometimes it's hard to put your finger on, to identify. So let me give you some words that will help us determine where we are looking for identity. Here's some words: fulfillment, contentment, peace, happiness. Every person on the planet is looking for fulfillment. Every person in this room is looking for contentment, looking for peace, looking for happiness. Matter of fact, our own Declaration of Independence guarantees, matter of fact, it says that we have the God-given right to pursue happiness. Where you are looking for fulfillment, where we look for contentment, where we look for peace, where we look for happiness, is where we are looking and finding our identity. So I'm going to give you 3 ways to help identify when we are not finding identity in God, when we are not finding fulfillment, contentment, peace, happiness in our Creator, our Redeemer, our Helper. I'm going to share with you 3 identity lies. These lies line up with the 3 testings of Jesus. I can tell you that all of us are vulnerable to all 3 of these lies, but each one of us is more vulnerable to one of the lies than the other 2. Even though they all are kind of connected and they all can kind of work together and we're all vulnerable to all 3 of them, because of the way we're wired, each one of us is a little more vulnerable to one of the lies than the other. So as we look at these lies, I'm going to ask you to try to identify which of these lies you are most vulnerable to. I might even ask for a show of hands as we go along here. Okay, the first one is, I am what I do. I am what I do. When you're meeting someone for the first time and you're in a situation where you know you're going to have to carry on a conversation, what is one of, if not the first question that comes up? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? So we most often identify what we do with our work, our job. But that's not the only way we can get caught up in this lie. Could be in a hobby, could be in something you're involved in. You're an athlete, you're a musician, you're an artist, you're a car guy, you're a shopping girl. What I do is the first lie. Second is, I am what others think of me. I am what others think of me. Now, that lie can actually have to do with what your job is. You may be concerned about what others think of you because of what your job is. So see how they're kind of connected? But I am what others think of me, what my family thinks of me, what my friends think of me, what my coworkers think of me. This is lie number 2. Lie number 3 is, I am what I have. When we think about what we have, we most often think about our possessions. But it's not just limited to possessions, because we have a reputation, we have position. So what we have can apply to a lot of different things. And as you can see, I have a job, I have relationships. So you can see how all 3 of these lies can tie together. But here's the 3 lies. I am what I do, I am what others think of me, I am what I have. So as we process through these, just try to think about which lie you are most vulnerable to. When Jesus was baptized, his identity was confirmed. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. His identity was confirmed. When we get to him being led into the desert, his identity is challenged. If you are the Son of God, Lucifer says to him, if you are the Son of God, his identity is challenged. So we see identity, lie number 1, in temptation number 1. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread. If you are the Son of God, do something. Do something. Do something. Take an act of your own will, your own ability, and meet your own need, your own desire. How many of you would say with me, because this is my most vulnerable lie, how many of you would say, I am what I do is your most vulnerable lie? You're most vulnerable to that lie. Raise your hand if that's you. I am what I do. I am what I do. That's your most vulnerable lie. Okay, good. Thanks for being willing to confess that. Jesus recognizes the lie. He knows, I am not what I do. I am a child of God. Now, he is God, but let's not go there right now and try to unwrap that. I am a child of God. And so he rebukes the lie, he rebukes the liar, and says, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Now, I want to make a distinction. I want to make a distinction between the word fulfillment and the word accomplishment. There's a difference between fulfillment and accomplishment. Because watch this. We were absolutely created to receive a sense of accomplishment from what we do. When you do a good job, it's okay to have that sense of accomplishment. That God created us to work. He created us to engage. He created us to do. It's okay to have that sense of accomplishment. But we were never meant to find our fulfillment in what we do. Ever heard the word workaholic? We were never meant to find our fulfillment in what we do. And when we chase fulfillment from what we do is when we're chasing identity in what we do and not who we are as a child of God. I don't know if I'm saying this because this is my most vulnerable lie, but I really think that this dynamic is one of the most challenging tensions for us to walk. And let me show you what I mean. Worship equals relationship. Relationship requires engagement. If you're going to be in a relationship, you must engage. Well, engagement implies doing. Yes, there is doing involved. But what happens, especially for those of us where this is our most vulnerable lie, but for all of us, what can happen is we can get over-focused on the doing. And when we get over-focused on the doing, who is the focus on? Ourselves. Let me give you an example. Jesus at the home of Mary and Martha. Martha invites Jesus and the disciples over for dinner. It says right there in Luke chapter 10, Martha was distracted by the many preparations. So eventually she comes to Jesus because Mary is sitting at Jesus' feet. She comes to Jesus and says, Lord, don't you care that I serve alone? Tell my sister to come and help me. And Jesus says, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. Now, I got to tell you, all my years of growing up, when I've heard this story talked about, and as I've read the story myself, and as I've included this story in the Passion Play that we did for decades, I always heard, was given the impression, received the impression, that Jesus was exhorting what Mary was doing and scolding Martha for what she was doing. And I'm like, well, that's a bummer because I'm a doer. Any doers in the house? Like, did this story ever drive you crazy? Like, are we getting a bum rap in here? Well, you know what happened? The more I studied worship, I realized, wait a minute. That's not the lesson of this story. That's not the lesson of this story at all. Because in our Bibles, in the original language, there are two words that we translate into the word worship. One word means to bow, which is what Mary was doing, sitting at the feet of Jesus. But then the other word means to serve, which is what Martha was doing. And when we get to the third testing, you're going to see that Jesus rebukes Lucifer by using both words in one sentence when he says, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. So there is no way Jesus was scolding Martha for serving. So what was happening in the story? What did Jesus say to Martha? You are worried and upset about many things. It wasn't the serving that Martha was doing that was a problem. It was where Martha's focus was on. She was worried and upset about many things, which means her focus was on herself. Her focus wasn't on who she was serving. Her focus wasn't on why she was serving. Her focus was on herself. It's so easy for us as we get engaged at doing to get over focused on the doing and forget that the doing must be connected to relationship. Serving must be connected to relationship. That is only when it becomes true serving. It's when it's directly connected to relationship. Say this after me. I am not what I do. I am a child of God. The second temptation is connected to the second lie. I am what others think of me. How many of you would say, yeah, this is probably the lie that I'm most vulnerable to. I am what others think of me. Good. Thanks for being willing to say that. Lucifer takes Jesus to the highest point of the temple, and he challenges him again and says, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, because it is written, now he's going to use scripture, God will give his angels charge concerning you, and you won't even dash your foot against a stone. If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down and you will be lifted up by the angels. Because see, they're at the pinnacle of the temple. So he's probably showing them all these people that are around the temple areas. Like, look at all those people. Throw yourself down and prove to them you are who you say you are. Well, Jesus recognizes the lie. He knows that I am not what others think of me. I am a friend of God. And so he rebukes him and says, thou shalt not put the Lord your God to the test. Now, I want to make a distinction between the word fulfillment and the word acceptance. Because we were absolutely created to receive a sense of acceptance from human relationship. Absolutely. It is okay to have a sense of acceptance from human relationship. But we were never meant to find our fulfillment in human relationship. And when we chase, listen to this, folks, when we chase fulfillment in human relationship is when we are chasing identity in human relationship and not who we are as a friend of God. We see that as Jesus was rebuking the Jewish leaders, calling them hypocrites. He says to them in Matthew 6, when you pray, don't be as the hypocrites. They love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, and they may be seen of men. That they may be seen of men. And in Matthew 6, Jesus applies this to prayer. He applies this to giving. He applies this to fasting. Don't do it. There is doing involved. Praying is doing. Giving is doing, fasting is doing, but don't do it to prove to others anything because you're concerned about what they think of you. Your praying, your giving, your fasting is all about your relationship with God and how that translates into relationship with others. Everyone say this after me. I am not what others think of me. I am a friend of God. The third temptation, Lucifer takes Jesus to a very high mountain, shows him all the kingdoms of the world, and says to him, you can have it all. I will give it all to you if you will just bow down and worship me. Lie number 3, I am what I have. Possessions, reputation, position, power. I am what I have. How many of you would say, yeah, this is probably I'm probably most vulnerable to this lie. I am what I have. Anyone out there? Yep. Good. Thank you. Well, Jesus recognizes the lie. He knows I am not what I have. I am a servant of God. And he rebukes them with that sentence where he's quoting Deuteronomy, and it has both words for worship in one sentence when he says, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Now, I want to make a distinction between the word fulfillment and enjoyment. Fulfillment and enjoyment. We were absolutely created by God to enjoy the blessings of what we have. Absolutely. But we were never created to find fulfillment in what we have. And when we chase fulfillment in what we have, we are chasing identity in what we have and not who we are as a servant of our Creator, as a servant of our Redeemer, as a servant of our Helper. This is a picture representing the story of a rich young ruler. And there's some great insights connected to worship equals relationship here, but I'm not going to share that. I'm going to go to the end of the story where the rich young man walked away sorrowfully because Jesus was challenging him to not look at what he has, not find fulfillment in what he has, but he walked away because of his great possessions, position, and power. We are not called to find fulfillment, identity in what we have. We are called to find fulfillment in who we are as a servant of God. So say this after me. I am not what I have. I am a servant of God. I know you've been responding all through this service, all through this message. We're going to go to just another layer of response here. I'm just going to invite you just to bow your heads, close your eyes. You may be in this room and maybe you have never accepted God's invitation to relationship with Him. If that's you, I want to invite you today to accept God's invitation to you into relationship with Him, acknowledging Him as your Creator, acknowledging Him as your Redeemer, covering over all your offenses, all the way you have offended your relationship with God, all the ways you have offended your relationship with others. He redeems us from those offenses and welcomes us into relationship with Him. And He is your helper. He will help you. When you are in relationship with God, He helps you in all your relationships with others. I invite you to accept His invitation. Maybe you're in this room and you're recognizing that you've been chasing fulfillment, possibly in what you do. Maybe you've been chasing fulfillment, possibly in what others think of you, in relationships. Maybe you've been chasing fulfillment in what you have instead of resting in who you are, trusting in who you are as God's child, as God's friend, as God's servant. I'm going to invite you just to ask the Lord. Tell the Lord, Lord, I recognize this. I recognize this. I recognize this. And I'm asking you to help me. Help me look to you and you alone. Help me to find fulfillment in you alone. Help me to rest in you alone. Help me to trust in you alone. In the midst of this crazy world that we are living in the midst of this world that is racked with pain and loss and suffering, help me to rest and trust in you alone. Help me to love every person that you have put in my life. So let's just take some moments and just ask Him, speak to Him, listen for Him. We look to you, O God. We acknowledge you as our Creator. We acknowledge you as our Redeemer. We acknowledge you as our Helper. Help us, O God, to stay engaged by listening to you, not just in a moment like this, but in every moment of our day. Of looking for you, not just in a moment like this, but in every moment of our day. In receiving your help, not just in a moment like this, but in every moment of our day. I'm going to invite you to stand with me if you're able. And let's just engage in another layer of response by joining the team in singing this song, declaring who we are in the Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
I am chosen, not forsaken. Oh, I am who you say I
Yes,
am.
we are, Lord.
You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Let's sing that again. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, in my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. One more time. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am.
Amen. Amen. Will you join me in giving a big thank you to Todd for coming and sharing the word with us? The encouragement, thank you. And you are dismissed to go and serve the Lord.